Hello, everybody. Welcome to One and a Half Mexicans. This week, we're going to be dealing with a bit more serious topic for our first discussion, which is the supposed murder of Quawan, Quawan Charles. If you will, take it away, Daniel.
So, for those of you that don't know, Quawan Charles was a 15-year-old Louisiana teen reported missing on October 30th, 2020. Police found his lifeless body 20 miles away at a Laurelville lake. In uh, when he was found, his lungs were hyperinflated with muddy water, and his sinuses were also filled with water. And what I found interesting about Kwan is his death was eerily similar to Emmett Till, who was lynched back in 1955 in Money, Mississippi. S- s- ah. So I just find this story disturbing. It disturbs me to my gut because after 65 years, there are still deaths like this happening down in the South, right? S-
Yeah, I know from the face of it, it looks horrible because the the kid he's completely disfigured and it just looks awful. And like you said, it's definitely reminiscent of Emmett Till's murder back in the 50s, the murder that started the civil well
Civil War.
that perpetuated this no the civil rights movement, but some might call it a civil war depending on who you ask. But anyway, the death of Kawan Charles, it's heartbreaking, but it's also one of those cases that we have to hear the facts about first before we start making judgment. Because even though this does sound like a case of lynching and murder, I wouldn't jump to that conclusion straight away. The main reason for that is because even though that a lot of people say that this looks exactly like Emmett Till, there are some subtle differences when it comes to the disfigured body. For well, the main difference that I see is for Emmett Till, his whole face is all bruised up and all his face is pretty bruised up, and you can't even tell that it's like supposed to be a person. It looks like some Halloween decoration. Messed up the that's how messed up the torture and beating was. But when I look at Kawan, the main difference that I see is that his skin is really smooth. Now that might be a side effect of him being in the water for so long, because I heard that it was something like he was found in the water, as what Daniel was saying, that he had a lot of water in his lungs, so maybe he was in a river or some type of body of water, so that might have smoothed out his face. But when I'm looking at him, I would think if he was somebody that was abused, beat up, he was lynched. I would have thought that his face would have been more disfigured, but it looks more like his face was torn from from being in the water so long, like his like how his mouth is ripped open a bit, but that's about the only bit that's bad to him. Of course, like his face is a bit his face on his what side is that? His face on his left side is a bit messed up as well, but it's nowhere near as bad as Emmett Till. Still, I don't want to say that it's not a lynching and it's not a murder, but I would just hold off on saying what it definitely is for now.
I think that's the smartest thing we could do. I mean, we can't really speculate without evidence, or we can speculate without evidence, but we can't really conclude without it. So we could. It is 100% obvious that Emmett Till back in the 50s was lynched, but there are questions that if Kawan Charles was lynched. I mean, my gut says he was lynched, but that's my gut, and I could probably be wrong, but we felt like it was an important story to talk about, and this brings up to our another segue, the increase in hate crimes under the Trump presidency. So, according to the FBI, hate crime increased by 19.49% over the course of the Trump presidency. 51 people were murdered due to their race, religion, gender, and sexual orientation in 2019. That was the highest in 30 years. All right. How does that make you feel, Cyrus?
It was the highest amount of violent hate crime, like in murder and murderous hate crimes in 30 years.
Yeah,
Okay, that makes sense because when I was looking at the data, there pretty much before everything 2008 and before, the overall numbers of hate crimes were way higher than anything during than anything during the Trump presidency. Now I'm not saying that Trump didn't I'm not saying that Trump lowered the hate crimes or anything, but I'm just saying that that back then when Obama was first elected and before that the hate crimes across America were way higher than they were during the Trump presidency. But I see where you're coming from. Uh
I
how it
mean,
makes me feel.
I can't really lie about this. It came from the FBI, the people who actually investigate these types of crimes. 39 out of 51 of the murders were killed in 2019 were killed by white supremacists. So I feel like Trump instigated. He didn't directly cause those, but he did instigate a lot of white supremacists to go out and kill uh 39 people. He wasn't the explicit factor, he was an implicit.
Yeah, because he kind of enabled is the right word for it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, he pretty much enabled people. I want to say that I'm not sure if Trump wanted this to happen, but because a lot of his supporters are racist, he let it happen,
he didn't
which is
care.
the
He
yeah,
just didn't
which
care.
is the real issue.
And uh remember the El Paso shooting back in 2019, Cyrus?
That was 2019.
Yeah, that was 2019. Crazy,
I don't
right?
know why I thought that was like the beginning of his presidency or whatever.
No, that was 2019. Um in the shooter's manifesto, uh he literally wrote, and I quote, "The Hispanic invasion of Texas." And why I say it's Trump was an implicit factor for this is not everyone, or not all right wing media really says Hispanic invasion. Only Trump says that, and right wing media just mimics it. Just boost its ego, like just stroke it. and
Yeah,
and because a lot of right wing listeners, believe a lot of this stuff, they take it to heart, and they get angry. Once they get angry, they do a lot of stupid shit.
yeah,
And
but
in this case,
in the El Paso, you go ahead. You go ahead.
he went out and shot Mexican immigrants that were peacefully shopping. Now you could go.
Yeah. Now I'm not defending anybody in this case, but what it seems more to me of is just somebody that's mentally ill grabbing onto somebody and some person's idea that that they that they heard. Now of course Trump, he shouldn't have said the things they said because of course they encouraged other people to get
He's still
riled up
saying
and
that.
get
He hasn't
what do
changed.
you say?
He's still saying that. He hasn't changed.
Okay, yeah. But I'm not saying that he has changed, but what I'm trying to get to is that there seems to be a bigger issue of mental health in America than rather racism. Of course racism exists in America and it is an issue, but when it comes to mental health, almost nobody does anything to try to change it. A lot of people that do have mental health issues, they keep it shut in until they explode into a situation like an El Paso situation. And that's because everybody in the US, we don't seem to take stuff like mental health as seriously as we should. Because when we leave stuff like that unchecked, people are just going to people are just going to hide everything inside themselves until it boils over into something that nobody could have predicted would have happened.
I mean, back in the 80s, Reagan dismantled the mental health institutions, and that's why you see in a lot of big cities a lot of mentally ill people, you know, and without help, they're just running loose, and you don't know what their motive is or what they're gonna do. I mean, some are harmless, but some, like the El Paso shooter, are actually dangerous and they need to get kept in check. But because no government funding is going to these mental health institutions, or hardly any, then we're just left with dangerous people on the street, you know, having a motive to hurt other people. This this is this is a subject that shouldn't even be in question. You know, we should allocate money to mental health institutions instead of allocating money to prisons where most mental health patients don't even get the help they need, and they're sent out back in the world and they're still the same. They're just more traumatized, and they're more willing to commit on their thoughts. So
But if we get rid of prisons, then how else am I gonna have my $5 t-shirts? I want low cost stuff.
don't worry, we'll go to jail
But no,
soon.
yeah, I
We'll go to
yeah,
jail
like
soon.
it's messed up because pretty much when it comes to the prison system, especially the independent and private prison system, they don't care at all about your rehabilitation. You're pretty much seen as a slave because that's what it pretty much is. It's slavery.
It is slavery. Have you seen the 13th on Netflix, Cyrus?
I'm not sure if I saw all of it, but I know I saw parts of it.
Yeah, so it's
And it's about well, you could explain more about it, but the name of it is derived from the 13th Amendment and how it basically said everybody's a free person unless if they're arrested and convicted of a crime, then they could be a slave, basically.
right. I mean, you prisons violate your 13th Amendment. You know, even if you go to prison and work this job in prison, you're getting paid a couple cents an hour. That's not livable. You know, you need to buy stuff in your commissary and you need to keep up with, your hygiene and other stuff. You it's just you just can't do that, you know? And
And the worst part is when they get out of prison, they can't even get the jobs that they were working while at prison,
yeah,
like
that's
firefighters. These inmates are risking their lives trying to fight fires, trying to save our lives, but society can't even help them back because when they get released out of prison, they can't even use their skills for good. So what do? They end up committing more crimes because when they get out of prison, that's the only thing they can do because everybody else turns them down. And when they start committing more crimes, they go back into the prison and they start working like slaves for the rest of their lives.
I mean, once you check off that you're a felon on your a resume, your chance of getting that job just turned to shit, you know? Felons don't have a great reputation in the workplace. So employers do everything in their power to prevent felons from working at their company. And
And that's why they say orange is the new black. Pretty much the same way black people were treated back in the 18 and 1900s, that's how felons are treated today.
I mean, you are right. You are right. It's just prison shouldn't just be about going to prison and serving your time. It should be a course of rehabilitation for these prisoners. You know, just have them rehabilitated, entering. the world as this new person, a new person that wants to strive to be better. But no, the prison system was designed for people to go back to it, to fuck up somewhere and go back to prison because it's all about money, Those private prisons make money off of the government subsidies that they get.
Yeah. And even if we get rid of every single private prison in America, that still won't fix much because the public prisons aren't that good either. The only thing that's different from private and public prisons are that public prisons don't use prisoners as much to like help make products and other stuff like to be uh free workers or whatever.
And this is where we get to the territory of business in America. We have good businesses that are doing everything in their power, to help people, help the community, and just do some philanthropy. But then you have the private prisons who do everything in their power and do all the evil just to make profit. And I feel like private prisons give a lot of bad baggage to capitalism because people capitalism's been demonized for, like, I don't know, a couple decades now. And I don't know, at least I believe that capitalism could be used for good as long as it's regulated and as long as the people that are higher in power have a good heart. But right now we don't
Yeah, I mean, capitalism is pretty much like, I'll let you finish, but capitalism is pretty much like any other political ideology. It's good, just don't have too much of it.
exactly, we need to have a fine equilibrium, like my ideal society is with a good amount of socialism and a good amount of capitalism. So the capitalists would be happy, but also the leftists who love socialism would be happy too. Everyone's happy. Everyone's
Yeah,
satisfied
just
with
be
their life.
careful who you're saying the S word around.
Socialism.
Yeah. Don't go down in Florida and start saying that.
But socialism is communism. No, it's not communism, but yeah,
And then you start walking around with a Fidel Castro shirt.
Heil Hitler.
They're not even the same.
I know, but you know how the Nazis are the quote unquote socialist party of Germany, but it was only called that because socialism was a big or like a popular idea in Germany, and he just took advantage of
Yeah.
that. Just like how Republicans call themselves, patriots, and actual Republicans. No, they're fascists, but that's not the point. But the point is that prisons shouldn't be ran by people. It should be ran by the government. That is something I believe in. Prisons should prison and private industry should not intertwine because greed, the greed that comes with it, would would make it corrupt, and the more corrupt it is, the less rights the people would have, and that's what essentially 13th is about. You're stripping these people of their rights from now and from the future. So that's why
Yeah.
I mean, this is why do you think blacks are so disenfranchised, Cyrus? Or not blacks, just minorities in general. And
Because they're the ones with the highest conviction rate.
exactly. I mean, whites and blacks do drugs at the same rate. It's just blacks are more likely to be convicted and sentenced for the drug possession, right?
Yeah.
And the
And you know
South,
what's funny about that?
yo,
Even
so
though that whites don't get convicted, they're still not helped. The ones that are addicted to drugs, they're pretty much just seen as like the crackheads that get to run around free instead of the ones getting locked up.
I guess the crackhead white trash. I've actually seen some drug addicts driving in where's it, Western and the west on the west side of the city. Just begging for money.
By the airport.
No, the west side. So mm,
Oh, like wait, you mean
b-
Austin?
by Rush Hospital.
Okay.
that west side. So it's really a matter of, like, if any politicians, I undoubtedly think any politicians will listen on our second episode. But to anyone that has like connections with politicians, just let them know how they need to change the prison system. You know, you're is
The only way that they'll change the prison system is if it benefits them.
exactly, and that's pretty much politics as a whole.
And one way I think I could see that happening is if I'm not sure how the government subsidies work for public prisons or government owned prisons, but if there isn't any like funny stuff going on with the money there, I think what they should do is implement more what's it called? Therapists there, therapists at the hospitals, so that they could start. I mean, not hospitals, at the prisons, so that they could start. Well, they probably won't release prisoners more, but like they could stop the prisoners from going back because having people in prison costs a lot of money,
Not just
and it's going.
yeah, it's costing the taxpayers millions of dollars, or actually, I think billions of dollars in
Yeah,
taxes. And people complain about the high taxes. Your taxes are going to prisoners. How does that make you feel? You know,
yeah. Especially since the same prisoners, I'd be fine with it if it's like
if they're
either
getting
getting like the
rehabilitated and
crazy,
yeah,
yeah.
if they're
If it's
getting
either keeping like the crazy like actual serial killers locked up forever, and then like rehabilitating people that actually need help, but it seems to be doing the opposite. People are letting out the crazy serial killers, murderers, and all that other stuff, but the people that like just have an ounce of weed, they're getting locked up for life.
that's the sad part. I mean, luckily, I hope Biden and Harris do this, but Harris was the biggest culprit of this. I mean, s- just just decriminalize weed. Weed is not
Yeah.
even that bad of a drug. All you do is get high,
And
and then
actually, I would like them to decriminalize it, not because it's not that bad of a drug. It can still mess with you, but because the alternatives to marijuana, it could really mess you up. I'm not talking about like meth or all that other type of stuff. I'm talking about things like K2 and spice. You remember from I think last year or maybe the year before, people in Chicago or Illinois at least overdosed on that K2 and spice.
yeah, it was like an epidemic.
Yeah.
You hear like every day in the news that somebody died on from overdosing. I think we should follow Oregon's example of decriminalizing every drug. And hear me out, hear me out. You might think I'm crazy, but hear
Yeah.
me out.
Well,
People,
that's because it's not selling the drugs, it's just possession.
yeah, so people will always get their hands on drugs, right, Cyrus? People always get it.
Yeah.
It's our natural inclination.
Yeah,
People are
like you
horny
just
for
dig in your
drugs.
pockets and like, hey, how did I get this in there?
Well, you were high when you bought it.
Oh.
Oh, all right. So other than that, people will always have drugs. They always be inclined to get drugs. They always want that quick high. So
Yeah.
if they're always gonna, you just have to come to the terms that they'll always get it. So just decriminalize it and make state or make like stations where they could do the drugs. And if they do overdose, there'll be doctors on hand to give them drugs to keep them alive, instead of having
Yeah.
like some sort of calling 911 and then he's already pronounced dead when the ambulance gets there.
Yeah. But then there will be taxpayers that are like, I don't want my tax money to go to making people overdose.
That's all. That's the selfishness of Americans, like, oh, I don't want to pay taxes to send some other kids uh some other person's kid to college. Like, no, this is a collective effort. Europe has Europe may have higher taxes, but most their healthcare, their college, and other insurances are relatively cheap or free. And we should take example, like if you don't want to pay for a kid's college, well, why are you preventing you're preventing innovation, you're preventing, you know, a move towards prestige and greatness, like what we were in the 50s. I mean, in the 50s, most people worked manufacturing jobs, but we were the leading country in science and mathematics and literature.
I
It's
think it should be like the forbidden U word, if you know what I mean.
unity,
No, well, close. Union.
union. Oh,
Yeah, where if you don't pay your dues, you could not pay your dues, but you're not gonna get any of the benefits like government benefits or anything. So you could go ahead in life and not pay any taxes, but you're not gonna get any help from the government.
exactly. So if you don't like pay your taxes, or actually that's technically tax fraud, but if you don't, do go that extra mile and pay for the benefit of other Americans, I think you shouldn't get any government transfers. You shouldn't get any government assistance. You don't deserve it. You're not helping
Yeah.
the Americans, so why should we help you? Bring me back to that JFK quote. Do not ask what America can do for you. Do what, or ask what you can do for America,
Do
or do you
yeah,
for your
yeah,
country. I mean, I didn't really quote it that much. It was just paraphrase.
yeah,
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you could do for your country.
yeah.
S- And that really goes back to the hate crimes. Like because of the disregard in the mental health institution and politicians and the constant marketing by the media, we have people on the loose that could kill groups of people at any moment in time. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, guns like the AR-15 aren't regulated in every state. You could just go to Indiana, purchase an AR-15, come back, and then uh, do
It's
whatever
like
you
a
want to.
firework, and it's like a firework. You know how people from Chicago go to Indiana for 4th of July just to purchase fireworks?
And then they come back and then start blowing shit up for like 6 hours.
It's a gender reveal.
Dude, but we're not California. We can't burn shit.
Yeah, you're right.
You're right. There's no fun in not burning anything or burning a whole state down.
Well, we did that, back in the 1800s.
No, we did that. No, we did that back in May when George Floyd died.
Oh yeah, but
We burned the.
I was talking about the cow. The Great Chicago Fire.
No, I don't think the cow actually kicked it over. Cows are not. They can't really kick. Their weight
Oh
is too
yeah,
far.
prove it.
Prove it. All right, kick something, Cyrus. Let's see.
Huh?
Kick something. Kick something.
I'll kick you.
All right, you cow.
I'm
Or
American, okay? Calm down.
yes,
It's
the
natural.
country of the land and free and the burgers and fatties.
It's what keeps my heart stopping.
Yo, Americans eat like their healthcare is free. They eat like their healthcare is free, dude. Oh yeah, but back on this year's topic, we should fight for mental health institutions or for the refunding of mental health institutions.
Yeah,
Mm. Yeah.
because did I tell you this before about how I was looking at therapists in like bad Chicago neighborhoods?
There isn't any.
I know that's what I was looking for. I was looking for like to see if there were any in the neighborhood, maybe like right now I can't do anything, especially since it's during a pandemic, but maybe when things get back together, and if I start, making a bit more money, I could I don't know, maybe pay them for I could pay them so that they could help out some of the gang members and other people in the bad neighborhoods and hopefully make them change their ways of life. But when I was looking at it, aren't there aren't that many therapists in the South Side.
They're not. I mean, they, okay, so you could have someone from the south side become a therapist, but they'll be wanting to go for the high paying job, like being a therapist for some rich person,
Yeah,
so they
because
don't.
a lot of the people that come from bad neighborhoods that get successful, they want to leave those areas. They don't want to help them. They just want to get out as soon as possible
Yeah, get out of the
because they're
projects.
traumatized. Yeah, they're traumatized by what they grew up with and they want to get away from it as soon as possible. That's like the Cubans in Florida and New Jersey. Even though like some of them may get successful, they don't want to do anything with Cuba again because they're so traumatized by it. They don't even want to think about it ever again.
Right, and that really goes back to what you were saying last week, where you came from the hood and you want to help it. Like you're probably one in like a million, right?
Yeah, I think the reason for that is I wasn't as traumatized because I didn't experience the worst of the worst. Sure, I heard people shooting in my neighborhood, but I never saw or experienced anything too bad.
Dude, you're not from Chicago if you haven't heard a shooting at least once in your life.
Even if you're on the north side.
Even though you're no, but that's usually a mugging.
Yeah.
No, and I find it funny that in 2020, drive-by means something way different than it did a year ago. Like this year it means, oh, okay,
Hello, welcome to McDonald's.
no, 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 that's a drive-through. No, drive-by is when people leave off presents in the front of your house, in succession. So one goes, then one. And last year it meant some dude will roll up in front of you and then start like blasting you with bullets.
Last year it meant the business.
the the
Special delivery. Bow.
Yeah, so more money should go to these places because the more money they'll have, the more money or the more opportunities they'll get.
And the
And
more opportunities they get in their neighborhood, the more the city can tax them, which incentivizes the city to actually bring up these areas.
hope they don't gentrify the shit out of it like Pilsen and now they're starting to gentrify Little Village, which is pissing me off because maybe like 10 years ago you wouldn't see any white person in Little Village. If they are, they're most likely
Yeah, but
tourists.
I thought that Mexican neighborhoods were more tightly knit than black neighborhoods.
They are tightly knit. I have some family that lived there, and they knew their neighbors, which was pretty cool. It was like I think they acted like Mexico, where you knew your neighbors. I think that
Yeah,
culture. I think that culture really stuck to that. So that's why they're
yeah.
tightly knit. I don't know about the black neighborhood. I can't really
Because
talk about that.
most of them are probably first or second gen that live there.
Most of them are first gen.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, and then only second gen if I feel like second gen if you still live with your parents.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like another situation where you want to get out of that neighborhood.
yeah. Because Little Village isn't
It isn't
that good.
paradise.
Because when there's the gang war in Little Village, like pretty much any of the Mexican gangs, it's real bad.
You're right. I mean, the same thing goes with the black neighborhoods and or all neighborhoods. There's gangs everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't really avoid it. It's part of the city
Mm. Yeah, but remember, the only reason why gangs exist for the most part is
because of a
because
lack
that's
of
the only thing.
opportunities.
Yeah, that's the only way people can get by in life.
I mean, what kind of employer will want a person that dropped out of high school, has a drug offense or some sort of felony, and
Especially a violent offense.
violent offense too, or a murder? You know,
Yeah.
nobody's gonna want them. So their opportunities are either limited to a low-paying job or crime. And crime usually it's high risk, high reward. You know, like if you like rob like some sort of store or or someone, there's a chance you could get a lot of money
Yeah.
from it.
I feel like um I feel like employers, except for city employers, shouldn't be able to see your record.
They shouldn't. I feel like no, they should, but they should at least uh not discourage from hiring you. You know,
Yeah.
think they should have an idea who you are, and then just present yourself as this new person, or like they try to see you as this new person. You know,
Yeah, but that's the hardest when you don't even have an education. If it's like you got a like even if you got an associate's degree, but you just took a bad turn in life, like let's just say you went to sell drugs or whatever. Sure, it's bad, but a lot of employers, especially like big companies, I feel like they're hiring you for a small job like janitor or maybe janitor or whatever, like some type of small job, they will be able to overlook that. But if you're somebody that pretty much has no credentials behind your name, they're probably not even going to think about hiring you, which is the bad part because those are the people that need the help the most.
I mean, we all know that someone that went into crime because they didn't have opportunities.
Yeah.
They didn't have a door that was open to them. All of them were closed. They just took the alternative route, which was crime. And I lost one friend because he turned to the worst. He got into drugs, he got into crime, and now he's a different person. Like I don't remember him as my friend from middle school. Just some other person. Like I don't recognize him, and
Yeah.
he's at the point of no return. He's not going to return back to his old self. And
Well, I wouldn't say that anybody could change.
anybody
It's
could
just
change, but I
that,
feel like his refusal to go to, like to get help won't like that attitude won't help him.
yeah, there's always gonna be, especially people that are raised like that. There's always gonna be a refusal from them to change, but there also has to be people trying to force them to change as well. Because you can't just say, "Hey, bro, get better." You can't just say that to somebody and expect them to get better. You're gonna have to actually help them and push them forward.
No, 9 times out of 10, when you tell someone to get better, they'll get offended. Like
Yeah.
I'm not good enough. You know, but I mean, why do you think I tell you to be the best of yourself? Like don't beat yourself, be the best of yourself, Cyrus.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that talk about your friend reminded me of this rapper Lil Rodney. He's this 12-year-old rapper that allegedly shot a 1 year old. Luckily the 1 year old survived, but he hasn't been on the run. I think like he cut off his monitor. I forgot the sequence of events, but basically he was arrested before for something else, like I think drugs or something else. I forgot what it was. But basically he got arrested again for shooting a 1 year old. And what makes me think about is like why why would you why would you even do that? I could understand, you're in a bad situation, you have a gun on you, and that's how you're raised. You have a gun on you at all times, and like I don't know, somebody pulls up on you and they try to shoot you. But never mind that. This this turned into a bad situation where for some reason he or somebody else, because what I was hearing is that it apparently was somebody else that shot the baby and they just wanted the kid Lil Rodney to take the blame for it. Um my the main thing that I drew from it was like, why are kids that are like, they aren't even teenagers yet, why are they involved with all this gang stuff? And this isn't even new. Back in the 18, I mean not 18, back in the 80s, there were young kids in gangs as well. I don't remember the full story, but there was a Chicago gang where this 11-year-old, he went to go do a hit job for whatever gang he was in, and he ended up shooting the wrong person. I think he misfired and shot like three people, and one of the people were was a 14-year-old girl that was, just an innocent girl minding her own business. And what the gang ended up doing was they ended up killing the 11-year-old boy that was meant to do the hit job. His own gang killed him because they were worried that he was gonna snitch on the police. And it's just a crazy cycle, man. This stuff just keeps going on and on with more and more young people. It's to the point where young people, they don't even, a lot of them a lot of them that are in this situation, they don't even get high school levels of education. They don't even go to school. And when you don't even have a GED or anything like that, you can't really do anything with your life. Even if you want to turn around, there's it's very hard to do when you're stuck in there, when you're trapped.
It is, but it's also it's also influenced by their environment. You know, like, oh, if somebody they think or they look up to is in a gang, they'll most likely want to be in a gang when they're older or start like mimicking the actions of them. You know.
And then when they grow up, uh their kids or kids that are younger than them, they're going to start wanting to be in the gang as well because they look up to them, and the cycle goes on and on. That's why they call it the trap, because you're always trapped in that cycle. You can't get out of it.
And then that that cycle wouldn't be broken until until somebody like actually becomes better, gets educated. But those people that do get educated leave, and still,
Yeah.
which still causes the cycle to continue because you may have broken away from the cycle, but people back at home are still experiencing it. So like, cool, you're successful, but now what? You know?
Yeah.
Mm, dang. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. I just wanted to apologize for last week where my mic was pretty shitty. Uh, all I had to do was buy a pop filter. So for the people that did get bothered, I apologize. But stay
You better
educated.
apologize.
What happened?
I said you better apologize for
Yeah, I
that.
know that was garbage. I know. I listened to
I
the
had
audio. I
to
kept
edit that.
I you had to edit it.
Yeah, I was trying my best to edit. I was like, you know what? I can't save this. It's
I,
easier to save America than it is to save your mic.
that was just terrible. I mean, it sounds a little better, right?
Yeah,
All right. Yeah,
but
I just needed a
anyway,
pop filter.
every yeah. But anyway, everybody that's been 1.5 Mexicans, we'll see you later.
Stay educated.